going to learn the second mimer of on the pasuk, on the first pasuk in the parsha. So you have the first mimer, and then two extensions to that mimer. But the second mimer, it's called Beis, Vayidaber Shalom Moshe, Bamidbar Sinai Beis. It's on page 8. This mimer was said, Parshas Bamidbar, Chav Tes Ir, Tav Kuf Samach Gimel, 1803. And the one who wrote this mimer was the Mariel. Okay. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe. So a lot of the mimarim that on Parshas Bamidbar are also include, in some way, the idea of Shavuos. So it's known that before Shavuos we always read Parshas Bamidbar. So Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe b'midbar Sinai b'yom moed suas reish kol hadas b'nei Yisrael l'mishpachoisam tifkudu eisam l'tziveisam atav aren. The questions on this pasuk, the Alter Rebbe doesn't say clearly, but it's brought down in other mamarim. First of all, why is it that the pasuk describes this dibur, this commandment that Hashem is telling Moshe and Aaron with two simanim, two descriptions. One is that it's in Midbar Sinai, and the other one Oyel Moed. It seems significance in the context of the pasuk and the content of what we're learning, that both ideas, both simanim are necessary. Both the idea of Midbar Sinai and the idea of Oyel Moed. So the Maimer is going to explain what the significance of each one is. More specifically, so describe what is this tzivui, what is the commandment here? Su'u is to count. What is the idea of counting? The idea is su'u, to lift up. Lifting up, connecting the neshama, the way it is in the body, to the neshama, the way the neshama is, l'mayla. As we know, only a part of the neshama comes down into the body, even though it's connected, but sometimes it could be severed. And the idea of su'u, the counting, it wasn't just in this, there's different explanations of what lies behind. What's the deeper message of the counting to show Hashem's love for us, etc., etc. Over here, Chassidus, and this is consistent with the previous mimer, also on this pasuk, we have it in other places. The idea of the counting of the Bnei Yisrael is actually reconnecting them to their source, to their sherish, which really fits with the word su'u, to lift up. And su'u is reish. And then it says the mishpachoisam, their families. So the counting took place in a way that they were even on a simple, but without the Chassidus, the explanation, the deeper esoteric explanation. According to Chassidus, the mishpachoisam means that they were now traced back to their families are tracing back to their shevet. Because they weren't counting individual families; they were counting the shvatim. They wanted to know how much in Shevet Reuven and how many in Shevet Shimon, etc. So the mishpachoisam is first determining which family you belong to, and that will determine which Shevet you belong to. So that was the process that was used in counting the Bnei Yisrael. So the Torah uses three things. It says the mishpachoisam. And then it says Leveis Avesam, and you have Mishpachoisam, Leveis Avesam. What's the third one? There's
The Mispar shares the calls are for the Google Isam.
The Google Isam. Yeah.
The Vaisam,
The Mishpachaisam, the Veisa Veisam, and the Google Isam. So those are the three. It uses three terms, which are going to be significant in understanding in understanding the deeper aspect of counting. These three things. Tivkudu Isam, Tzivesam, and then the other thing that is significant here is the way the counting took place is specifically through Atav Aaron. You and Aaron means through Moshe and Aaron. Moshe and Aaron both had a role in this reestablishing, connecting the Su'uvas Reish that happens by every Yid. Moshe and Aaron both had a role, and as we had many times before, in understanding the role of Moshe and Aaron, Moshe in the Zohar, it describes the role of Moshe of Aaron. Moshe is called Shushvina. Moshe is the Shushvina, the Malka, and Aaron is Shushvina de Maternisa, which is just like the Alter Rebbe explains, just like when you have a wedding, so you have those that usher the Chassan and those that usher the Kala. So here also, Moshe Rabbeinu is ushering the Chassan, is bringing the Eibishter down to the Bnei Yisrael, and Aaron is elevating the Bnei Yisrael, and we see that specifically through the Ba'aleis Chas HaNeres, through lighting the Neres. Aaron is elevating the Bnei Yisrael. So those are the points in the pasuk that the Alter Rebbe is going to elaborate on, and he starts with the Lemishpachaisam. So hine Lemishpachaisam Perush Lebechinas Ayin Mishpachis. The Mishpachaisam refers to the 70 Mishpachis Sheyatzum Ayin Nefesh Yetzi Yerech Yankiv. So there were the 70 families, the 70 people that went out of Eretz Canaan, and they went together. They were 70. They didn't all go out. There was also Yosef and his children, but they all together made up 70. But they are the Nefesh. They are the Yetzi Yerech Yankiv. Those are the ones that descended from Yaakov. Ukidei laharim. In order to lift up. This is the idea, the Alter Rebbe outlines right away the idea of Su'u, in order to lift up the Reish, the head, and the Meichin of Neshamas Yisrael, HaMishrashim b'Mekar Chaitzvam, that they are rooted in their source, from where they come from, where they're hewn from. B'chinas Knesset Yisrael, where the neshamas come from, that they come from Knesset Yisrael, which is commonly referred to as Malchus. Lahaloisam lebchinas ayin nefesh, to raise up to the bechinas ayin nefesh and iskir l'mayla, which is mentioned earlier. Now, there's the idea of lemishpachaisam is to raise the neshama to their source, to the level of the just like you have when we trace things back, you can trace it back to a grandfather, you can trace it back to a great grandfather, you can trace it back further. So over here we're talking about tracing it back, lifting them up to the level of ayin nefesh. The level of ayin nefesh is the Knesset Yisrael, as it's known that the menorah is referred to as Malchus, and it's discussed in specifically in connection with the vision of Zechariah. And the menorah is Malchus. The menorah had 7 branches. Each branch was another sphera, but more specifically, each branch was each sphera how it is contained 10. So each sphera how it is a complete parts of, which is 10 times 7, which is 70. So that's the Lemishpachaisa. So then Alter Rebbe continues, Tifkidu Atav Aaron. So who's doing the counting? Atav Aaron, Shebchinas Moshe v'Aaron, Hey Mamaylim Umenasim B'chinas Knesset Yisrael. They are the elevating the Knesset Yisrael. As David HaMelech describes in Tehillim, that Moshe and Aaron they're leading the Tzayin HaMecha, the sheep of your nation. That's through Moshe and Aaron. Ki Moshe sheshvina de Malka, v'Aaron sheshvina de Matronisa. As we described earlier. That's what it says in the Zohar. Sheshvina de Malka is the one who escorts the Melech, and Sheshvina de Matronisa is the Malka, is the bride. So that's the Alter Rebbe in many times in the beginning of the Maimer gives you the outline of the pasuk, the outline of the concept that we're going to elaborate on. Now is the Bir Adavar. Now he's going to explain what is this idea of elevating the Rosh Hamerchin of the Neshamas to Ayin Sarim, to the Ayin Nefesh, and that has to do dafka through Moshe and Aaron. So Bir Adavar Hine Neidam Shiridas Nishmisayim Shal Yisrael Leislabish Beguf Nefesh Bahamis Beilam Hazeh. So what's the neshama descends below into the body, into Elam Hazeh, into the Nefesh Bahamis. So this is a great descent. While the neshama was above, so when it was connected, it was Nen and Miziv Ashchina. Now, Nen and Miziv Ashchina we're talking about here, not the Nen and Miziv Ashchina that happens after the neshama leaves the body. Because you have two periods. You have the neshama prior to coming down Lamata, and then you have the neshama after it comes Lamata. So both are described as Nen and Miziv Ashchina. The difference is, though, that the neshama after it comes Lamata has mitzvahs, has garments through which it can contain the gilui, that it can contain this experience before the neshama comes down the mat. It doesn't have the garments, but nevertheless, here we're talking about the neshama prior to coming down. Whether the neshama is in Gan Eden Elyon or Tachtin, and then the neshama descends into this world, into a body, into a nefesh Bahamis. The descent is in order to go and ascend higher. So, what is the aliyah? So, the Alter Rebbe, before he goes and explains the aliyah, he teaches us a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. And in that Mishnah, really it brings out this whole journey of the neshama prior to coming down the mata, and then the aliyah that takes place. And the Zohar, I'll just tell you the point outside. The Zohar describes the aliyah of the neshama with 3 words. The Zohar describes it, Li'ishtava begufa de malka. Li'ishtava is a word that means to be sucked in. To be sucked in the guf of the melech. So there's a difference between the outer aspect of the melech to the guf of the melech. When we want to show this union that takes place between the neshama and Hashem, so there's different ways of describing it. One level is that the neshama is nen in miziv ashchina. Ziv is only ha'ara, is only a reflection. And then in relationship to that, in other words, to compare it to that, or to bring out the maila of the neshama, what happens after the neshama has the experience in Olam Hazeh, and has to deal with all the challenges of Elam Hazeh. So for that, the Zohar describes it as Lishtava Begufa de Malka. Now the neshama is now absorbed within the guf, within the body of the Melech, as opposed to only experiencing the ziv, the reflection of the Melech, which that takes place prior to the neshama coming down. That's the distinction. And here the Alter Rebbe will show that, will bring that out in the Mishnah. This is the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Hine Amar Azal. So the Mishnah says, Da miyayin basa. Know from where you come. Ula'ana tehilech. And to where you are going. And these are the key terms that the Alter Rebbe is going to expand upon in order to bring out the distinction me'ayin basa, from where you come, meaning where the neshama comes from, to see that in relationship to where the neshama is going after the neshama comes down into this world. Pirush. So the key words here are ayin and le'on. Ayin describes one type of experience, one type of perspective, one type of dimension, if you will, of where the neshama came from, and le'on has a different description. Let's see. Pirush Mokan neshama hi ma'ayin. The neshama comes from a place of ayin. What's ayin? Ayin refers to Gan Eden Elyon. Ayin is chachma. Chachma mi'ayin timatzeh. Why is chachma called ayin? Because chachma, different than all the other spheres, is unique in the sense that chachma allows for the ayin to shine. Meaning to say that through chachma one has bittul, so one recognizes the ayin. In bina, so bina is yesh, but chachma allows, as we saw many places, chachma allows that the ayin, he recognizes there's an ayin, there's something beyond the chachma. Chachma doesn't get lost in the definition, but chachma allows for the definition to open up your eyes to something beyond that. It's almost a simple mashal for this would be, you have two different types of teachers. One teacher teaches you and explains you a concept very well, and you understand the idea, and that's how you go away. Then there's another level where the teacher opens your eyes that there's something that is there beyond what he's saying, even though you might not quite understand it yet, but now you understand that there's something beyond the subject matter that you're learning. That's the difference between chachma and bina. Bina gives to understand the yesh of the substantive aspect of what you're learning, but chachma opens your eyes to understand that which is beyond that. So chachma is referred to as ayin. So the neshama comes from chachma, ma'ayin basa, b'chinas Gan Eden Elyon. V'ilech es lekabel. So that's the ma'ayin basa. V'ilech es lekabel schara leb'chinas on. On describes the place of where the neshama, that's where the neshama is headed to receive the reward. So it goes, this is actually the third part of the process, right? You have the first part, the neshama prior to descending into the world. Then you have the descension into the world. Then you have the outcome. In other words, that which happens after that. That's called on, which is Gan Eden Tachten. Why is on referred to Gan Eden Tachten? So the Alter Rebbe says, Ki on hu maloshin ana. Where? Shuhu neifel. That on is as opposed to the ayin, which ayin signifies nothingness, which we explain what we mean when we say nothingness. Means it's something, it opens your eyes to something beyond that which you are, that which you see or that which you recognize. the yesh. It shows of something beyond the yesh. The on shows on something. The opposite is on is shows on a place, something defined. It has a space. It has a certain limitation. It brings a pasuk, Ana panayich muades. Where is your face turning? It's going somewhere. So as opposed to Gan Eden Ha'elyin, which Gan Eden Ha'elyin is similar, is the idea of Chachma, which Gan Eden Ha'elyin opens up to something beyond. But Gan Eden Ha'Tachtin is more definitive, and that's why it's called on. It has a certain dimension. Shehu b'chinas makom ugvul. K'maimer Hazal ha'olam echad meshishim began. So he brings a Maimer Chazal in the Gemara and Pesachim that says the olam is a 60th of the gan. Now, obviously, we're not talking about physical measurement here, but the fact that we're comparing it in some way, so that means that it's definable, whatever definition we're using. V'imkein, ma'u yisrina maila. So based on that, what is the maila? In other words, this is absurd. You're going from a place of ayin, right? The way the Alter Rebbe is starting to bring us into the understanding of the Mishnah, he actually repeats the question he just asked before introducing the Mishnah. Because the Mishnah seems absurd. This idea of going, nobody does this. Who invests money to lose money? I mean, that's absurd. So who goes from a place of ayin to a place of on? You're going from the ayin basa to on atahelech. We described ayin basa refers to Gan Eden Ha'elyin, and la'an atahelech refers to a place defined, a place of Gan Eden Ha'Tachtin. What would be the point of that? So the Alter Rebbe says, Elohim. This is now bring the answer. Elohim shetachas yudus haneshamis. If the whole purpose was kibul schar, receiving a reward, then it wouldn't make any sense. The idea of the aliyah is that the neshama should have an experience of elikus even while the neshama is in the body, in this world. And this is described by another Mishnah, where the Mishnah says, so Yafa, from the word Yafa, meaning it's better, it's more, it's nicer, that it's much more on a higher level, that there is a Truva Maisim Tovim in this world, Mikol Chayei Olam Haba. No matter what level of Olam Haba that we're referring to, so this chidush, this experience that we have in Olam Hazeh is it's uncomparable. You can't compare it. Ki kol Chayei Olam Haba, wherever level, even the highest level, is nan in Miziva Shechina. That's where there's a Ziva Shechina. That means there's only a reflection of the Shechina. No matter what level we're referring to, there's only a Ha'ara of Hashem. Ve'en zel ziv. Mash'en kin shuva ma'asim teivim nikra b'zoyar lishtava begufa de malka. Here, like we said, you become absorbed in the guf of the Melech itself. Here you're connecting with the guf of the king himself. And that's something, that chidush can only happen as a result of the neshama coming down lamata. So here in this context, the idea of la'an atahelech, there's, where is there this? Yes, it's now the neshama is connected with a makom mugbal. The neshama is connected with a dimension which has limitation. But what is the neshama recognizing that it didn't recognize before? Now it's recognizing how elikus is in zman u'makom. In other words, that the infinite aspect of the Eibishter is now being recognized, because before it saw elikus, but it saw elikus in an abstract sense, how the Eibishter is beyond the Indian of Ayin. Now the chiddush that takes place as a result of the tshuva ma'asim tovim, as a result of Elam Hazeh, as a result of the neshama coming down into the nefesh habahamis, now the neshama sees alikus, the way godliness is in even in zman u'makim, even in time and space. So there's a difference here between the gilui of something and something happening. In other words, someone can, just a simple mashal, someone can invest money, and the money is growing, whatever the investment is, but when it actually becomes realized, the gilui of that could be something that happens only later on. It's happening right now, but the realization of that only takes place later. Here, all of this that takes place, the chidush that takes place, which we're saying is tshuva ma'asim tovim b'olam hazeh, is happening right now, when you do a mitzvah, when you do tshuva. But the actual gilui of that, when is that realized? That only is realized. The main realization will be l'asud lavi when Mashiach comes. Regarding this, it says asidim tzadikim sheimru lifneim kaddish, that the tzadikim will reach a very high level, meaning that they have this idea of ishtava begufa de malka, because who do we say kaddish to? We say kaddish to Hashem. So here it says, it brings down a medrash that asidim, that they were going to say kaddish to the tzadikim themselves, signifying this, that the tzaddikim reach this level. Mikol makim ha'ora b'chinazu meir gam kemegan eden. Ha'ora of that, ha'ora of the yafas sha'achas, is also recognized and realized in Gan Eden. So it also says Ziva Shchina. But over here we're talking about Ziva Shchina, how it is after coming down into this world. Before you have the union of Ziva Shchina, the way the neshama is basking in the Shchina prior to coming down to the world. V'hu ziv tirasan avidasan mamish. Ulefi zeh yesh loiman. Sheziv tirasan avidasan amir beganin natachtin. So now this is the Tzavach Tzedek explaining, because we're explaining the Mishnah. We said la'anat ha'hilech. La'anat ha'hilech says refers to Gan Eden Natachta, but that is a maila even above where the neshama came from, the me'ayin basa. Yeshleima sheziv tirasan v'avidasan hameir began Eden Natachtin hu agbeya me'ed na'ila m'china she'isig ha'neshama afilu began Eden na'alyin koydem yiridasa be'elam hazeh. Let's skip to the next column. V'zeu.
If it's shining stronger, why is it Gan Eden Natachtin?
Because it's mugbal and zman makim. It's a different. That's what we said. The Indian of elikus is recognized in zman makim. It brings out the koyach habligvul. That like it says, it says, from the Basi Leganim on the Maila and Kates, or the Mata in Tachlis. The Mata in Tachlis is recognized in the Eibishter in the Ein Sof, Shabbat, which is the Bligvul. That's something that happens. V'zeu Yisrael olav b'machshava. No, I'm sorry. This is still part of the the third paragraph from the from the bottom of the column. Just as you know, these you can see different. It's hard to see, but you see there's different size letters here. Yeah, you recognize that? The difference between there's two different fonts. It's very, very subtle. Almost like almost like they're trying to hide it. It's known. It's brought down in Ayimim also. The Tzemach Tzedek, especially in the Likutei, has many notes on the Maimarim of the Alter Rebbe, and he was hesitant in publishing his notes in the Maimer, and he had a dream, and his sons had dreams, and the Alter Rebbe said to publish it together with it. So, but the thing is that a lot of times, and I'm sure it's on purpose, but a lot of times you don't really know where the Alter Rebbe's Maimer ends and the Tzemach Tzedek's notes begin. Sometimes it's clear. So in this particular copies, so when you see on the notes, so the Tzemach Tzedek has two different types of notes. It's in general. One is he gives you references throughout Likutei Torah. He'll send you to different Maimarim. So a lot of times, like it says, Torah is aniyim b'makom echad v'ashirim b'makom acher. So some places it lacks, and some places it fills in. So he'll send you to different sources to fill in some of the things that are not explained in the specific Maimer that you're learning. So those are references. Then the Tzemach Tzedek has other notes which he explains the concept more. So here in this particular layout, so the notes of the Tzemach Tzedek that are references. So he usually brings on the bottom, and you can see even on the bottom you have two different fonts. If you see that, so those fonts that are bigger on the bottom, it usually starts with v'ayin. Look there, look in different places. That's also the Tzemach Tzedek, and mainly he's giving you references to different places. The notes inside are notes of the Tzemach Tzedek, but usually have more explanation. So how does one elevate and make larger this idea? In other words, to have this aliyah of Truva Maisim Tevim, so this is through two things. This is through Midbar Sinai and Ohel Moed, which we asked, why does the Torah describe this tzivui of Hashem with these two simanim, both Midbar Sinai and Ohel Moed? What's a Midbar? So he's going to explain Midbar. It has to do with the Dibur of Hashem, and we just don't have time to go through this. I highly suggest you take this and try to continue the Maimer on your own. But it's really beautiful how the Alter Rebbe explains it. Anyhow.
And Ohel Moed is?
Ohel Moed has to do with the union of connection, das. The union of Moed. That he explains, that he goes in. So the first Ois here, he explains the idea of Midbar, and then in Ois Beis he goes into the union of Ohel Moed, and Ois Gimel, the Alter Rebbe explains how both of these are done through Moshe and Aaron, as we said in the beginning. Moshe and Aaron, the function of each one, and then only in Ois Dalid, the last Ois of the Maimer, he goes back he puts it all together. And the idea of Su'us Reish, lifting up the Reish, which is what Ohel Moed, Midbar and Ohel Moed, and Moshe and Aaron are all leading towards this Su'us Reish. And in Dalit he goes through the Gilgulaisam, right? We said that Mishpachaisam, Beis Aveisam, and Gilgulaisam. So 3 different stages.